Hi, everyone, and welcome to Design Development, your hub to learn direct from top performers in real estate development, design, and construction. I'm your host, Renz Hayes, founding partner of H&O Lifelong Learner, and I am personally obsessed with high-powered organizations and the leaders that guide them. If this is your first time listening, thanks so much for joining us. And if you're a returning listener, can't thank you enough. Let's go. We have an exciting episode for you today. My guest is Adam Stark. He's the co-founder of Jet.Build. He's one hell of an entrepreneur. I love his story. Former Special Forces veteran. He's a certified yoga instructor. He was a commercial real estate developer managing high-rise projects in downtown New York. And he came to be frustrated with how much time he was wasting doing administrative work and that he didn't really see a present-day software solution to help solve the problem. So he and his co-founder, they started solving the problem on their own. Truth be told, 3 years later, they realized they have a product that's going to help other people. And that turned into Jet.Build. So this is an end-to-end software solution, commercial real estate developer, and all key stakeholders, the design team, the contractor, the specialty subcontractors, you name it. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain all the values. You're going to have to tune into the episode, but without further ado, let's get to my conversation with Adam Stark. Please join me in welcoming Adam Stark. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Renz, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. Excited for this conversation.
You and I had a call, got to know each other a little bit before jumping on the podcast, and I'm really excited to introduce you to everybody. For those that don't know you, Adam, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what Jet.Build is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure we're going to dive into a lot of angles here.
Mm-hmm.
But to begin, answering that, what Jet.Build is about, my co-founder Joseph and I actually know each other from childhood. Then we uh, ended up in the same enlistment in the Israeli military. Then we both end up starting our professional careers working for real estate developers in New York City in very hands-on roles. So we spent many years on construction job sites. And right away, when we started our career, right, we recognized the amount of time that we were wasting with all of your typical administrative type tasks across the stakeholders, right? And that's when we said, all right, there's got to be a better way to resolve for this time waste. And that's really the inception of Jet on a very kind of macro basis. Is we built out a product, a solution management software that was supporting our role as site operators, as administrators, coming from the developer's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
connecting all stakeholders.
The software options, when you're in this development role, the software
Mhm.
options out there didn't quite solve your administrative and what you viewed as time wasting.
Yeah, great question. So, I always laugh at this because I'll say, before we spent all of our free time, right, building out a product for ourselves, is of course we went to the market. We recognized the incumbent legacy players that existed, and the friction that we faced. And these are friction points I hear on a daily basis. So the friction that we faced was first and foremost price point and pricing model. So
Mm-hmm.
as we were vetting alternative solutions to support our operations, we were rejected from the companies we were working for. Two different companies,
Mm-hmm.
similar companies but different. We were rejected because of the pricing models, and then also because of the difficulty in understanding the back end of the product. So for those reasons, we were left with no solution, and that's when we started to create one for ourselves.
If I think of construction software, and let's say the horse that comes to mind is Procore, and even
Mhm.
as a structural engineer, as a subcontractor, I've been involved in that software a number of different ways. And I imagine there's some visibility from the developer side too, but
Mhm.
it's really geared towards the construction side. And you're saying that doesn't necessarily have usability for the owner in the way that you need it to do your job and oversee it from a developer perspective?
So a difficulty that I see I'll call it general perspectives, right? I'm saying that plural in terms of all of the stakeholders, as you mentioned, a sub, a GC, a design team,
Hmm.
developer. You could go as far as the lender, expediter. So you can look at all of these stakeholders. All of us need to collaborate to create this project, right? So what we were seeing is either it be a GC coming on the project with a specific product, a sub coming on the project with a specific product, and then there's this disconnect or this friction in regard to adoption across stakeholders. So that's when we kind of conceived of this thought process of saying, hey, if you're the developer, I mean, there's a few angles to look at here, but
Hmm.
first and foremost, if you're the developer, why don't you issue a product that you could essentially mandate for all of your stakeholders that you are hiring to use as a single
Hmm.
source, right? So that would be
Sure.
first and foremost. Include the contracting features, the contracting solutions. And then, in addition to that, bridge the gap between what the developer needs to see, regardless of if they're hands on or hands off, and
Hmm.
create truly an end-to-end solution. And what I mean by that is typically, reporting features. It'll be data management features. It'll be payment application, budget, bid management features. All of these elements that could wrap, your draw packages, your payment application packages, so that the developer can leverage that to their, party that they're answering to, i.e., your lender, your
Yeah.
banks, et cetera.
When I think of software, let's say accounting software, I feel like every
Mm-hmm.
industry software starts in accounting. They're
Sure.
always accounting focused, and then the other things get bolted on as
Mm-hmm.
features, but aren't really the core use of the software. So they can be clunky and frustrating. And what I'm hearing here is there's no software out there that's really just geared towards the developer that does the things that they need to do well. So this software is first facing the developer, but also is supporting and creates that end-to-end solution.
That that's a great call out. So I would suggest that we're really focused equally on the developer perspective as well as the contracting teams.
Okay.
And to your point of how products maybe that you've seen were built initially on the accounting side, we actually started with your RFI submittal workflow and document management, and we moved on to file management, drawing management. So really site operation needs. And the reason for that is we were seeing, coming on job sites from the developer's perspective as well, we were seeing that we were spending our time reminding all of the stakeholders between contracting teams, design teams, back and forth, ourselves as giving approvals to changes. We were seeing this disconnect, right? So,
Hmm.
in starting with your RFI and submittal workflow and management, we recognized that we were bridging those gaps across the different companies, across the different stakeholders. So, we actually started really on what I would consider as your contracting day to day management solution.
You mentioned price as a big hurdle, especially
Mm-hmm.
from the development side. When I took a look at Jet.Build, you have a free pricing model
Mm-hmm.
for people to get a feel. So we're going to dive more into the features and the value that is Jet.Build. But for those interested, you can go to jet.build and check out the free version and start playing around yourself.
Totally.
Big part of design development is the journey of the founder to share your story so that we can all see parallels and learn from your experience. You have a very unique background, and I want to dive in. So, first, Special Forces veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that experience and really the kind of values or the habits that left you with that have propelled you in your career.
Yeah, totally. Funny enough, I did my military service before my undergraduate degree, and then undergraduate degree, then professional, career followed, right? So well
Hmm.
before I started in construction and development, and I was really quickly understanding so many parallels between my service and my professional career. And I'll stick to a few kind of touch points on that front. First and foremost, the thing that stood out most is when you go into military service, you're all of a sudden with people that maybe you wouldn't otherwise be with. You're all of a sudden interacting with
Hmm.
civilians in a way of, you're not a civilian anymore. So I'm bringing up these points to highlight, quickly you need to understand how to interact with people. You need to understand how to have empathy with others, coming from, different perspectives, different, I'll call it hierarchy for lack of a better word, and in extremely stressful environments, right? Like to an extreme. So
Sure.
if you're able to leverage those experiences and translate them into civilian life, then it works super well if you can imagine on a construction site where it's a hectic environment. At the same time, it's not a war zone. Uh,
Yes.
all right, so
Not
uh,
quite as hectic. Yeah.
right, exactly, not quite as hectic. Nonetheless, it is hectic. Nonetheless, you are dealing with dozens of different companies, people, roles, etc. So that kind of translation that I was able to recognize and leverage was really fun for me. Honestly, it was fun for me to see my efforts from my military career be
Mhm.
useful in the professional setting. Beyond that, but is also very translatable and recognizably so for me, was equipment, right? So you got to be able to manage equipment in the military. You got to be able to have your checklists, understand what's working well, when the last time you did maintenance on it, so on and
Mhm.
so forth. So in the same kind of a capacity for building a property, right? Is you need to understand equipment, you need to understand workforce, and you need to bridge those kind of logistic heavy elements to collaborating with other people.
I certainly have an admiration for those who served. I personally haven't served in the military. One thing that really sticks out to me is their focus on routine and habits. And I personally have come to appreciate the importance of a routine and even more so our daily habits, the things that we identify as most important, making them small, making them painless and super make them hard not to do your daily habits. And those things
Totally.
compound over time. Do you feel that you did you have a sense of routine and good daily habits leading into it, or is that a skill that you built while in the military?
Great question. And before even answering it right away, as I'll jump to like today, I'll call it, I have a
Hmm.
routine in the morning that I just simply cannot miss. It is impossible for me to miss just because of so many years of just doing it day in, day out, that it
Hmm.
is essential to my day. So it's great, great segue.
Perfect. Yeah.
Going back to having started, I think really my military career is what ingrained that into me. It embedded that sense of routine and the necessity for it, at least for me. And I would recommend it for others. Prior to starting, I was definitely very driven to get to where I got to serving in special forces. So I did do a lot of, just online research, spoke to people who had experience before me, understood what it took in terms of dedication toward creating um, uh, a routine per se, but I don't think I had that mindset yet at the time prior to starting.